The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary for the last 5 years. I'm your host and superior web headmaster, Jarod Bachman-Stubbs, and we are here to talk about Thunderbolts *, the new Avengers. Fun. We're going to unpack everything about this movie. I love this movie, and I have some maybe unpopular opinions about this movie's potential ramifications on the greater MCU, but the film itself, I loved, and I'm very excited to talk about all of that. I am not alone. However, I am joined by the latest member of Team TNAP and dear friend of mine, buzzing in all the way from Kentucky. It is one Bill Sheehy.
Hello, my friend. As any good teacher, I am drinking at a bar right now, about to educate the class on the Thunderbolts.
Yes.
I'm glad that you just spoiled it right there, because I wasn't sure, are we doing non-spoiler? Are we doing spoiler?
Jump right into spoiler stuff. Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
I used to do here's a non-spoiler section, but it's if you're watching this video, you already know.
Yeah.
There's no way you don't. But speaking of getting sloshed before we speak about cape shit, if you guys want to support the show, head on over and get some stuff from our friends over at Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill. Sunday's Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the multiverse with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice ain't for you. If you want to step up your Bloody Mary game for all of eternity, go to sundaysbloodymary.com/shop. Use the code TNAP to get 10% off your order and get the only Bloody Mary mix better than a from-scratch Bloody Mary, and tell them the Nerd Academy sent you. But with that said, Bill, your first episode on TNAP proper.
Yes, sir.
I think ever. Even barring just as a guest before I brought the Brinks truck to Kentucky to recruit you.
And then you just said, say his name and he will appear.
Yeah. I believe in Bill Sheehy. Let me take your temperature on the MCU. How are you?
Mm-hmm.
How have you been feeling about the MCU? Because there's a lot of talk about the status of this franchise, of this universe. Some of it I think worthwhile. Some of it I think in bad faith. Some of it I think is a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But I'm curious, kind of going into Thunderbolts, like how you've been feeling about the MCU, and kind of take your temperature coming into this movie.
I think we've talked about this before, and probably not here, but on Knights of the Nerd Republic. When I go to see movies, especially the MCU, I want to like it. And so that's with every MCU movie I go into, that's what I'm going into it with. And as a Kentucky basketball fan, I know about people bitching about the little, the smallest fucking thing imaginable. I think where I was with the MCU as a whole is yeah, I've liked it, but it hasn't felt the same. Even there was a stretch of the MCU where it was every movie was kind of a banger, and now it's every movie is either. I don't think there's been an overly bad MCU movie. There's always something to enjoy. My headspace with Thunderbolts was different because when they announced it, when was it, 3-4 years ago,
something like that. Yeah,
I liked the idea, but it was never something that really, really excited me. But then the trailer started coming out, and then like it just looked like a breath of fresh air that like frankly that the MCU has kind of needed. And I'm very, very happy to report. I think you touched on it a little bit. I loved this movie, and like kind of my like gauge of like how much I love a movie, or especially like a Marvel, like Star Wars, any of that kind of movie is, God, that's awesome. I want to see it again. And the immediate thought after, like even without the like post credit scene, like God, that was so good. I want to see that again. And I think like for me, it was everything that I love about a Marvel movie and everything I kind of love about like a 24 indie movie. Like it obviously had the heart and like the scrappy, like, oh, we're hero, like we're gonna it's the Suicide Squad of it all.
Yeah.
But like there's no like beam in the sky, like blue beam in the sky that's like the final boss. Like the final boss of this was different and something I don't think we've seen in really maybe any superhero movie, but like it was a breath of fresh air, even though like I've liked all the air that's been coming out of Marvel for the most part, but like this was like one where I was like, shit, this was everything that I wanted and more.
Excellent. I love to hear that. I mean, for me personally, my like MCU stance has been, I think there have been considerably more hits than misses
Mm-hmm.
for the entirety of the MCU, but especially post Endgame.
Yeah.
I think this post Endgame period has a weird, like, I was getting it with the self-fulfilling prophecy thing, where I think like a lot of people in 2020, that year without a Marvel project, did a spectacular job of doing to the MCU fan base what it took Star Wars fans about 10 years to pull off, where it was that like, kind of this nostalgia for an age that never existed, of like, oh, it was all perfect and it was all planned out and there were never any hiccups, there were never any weird inconsistencies. It ran like a smooth ship and nothing went wrong. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, well, look at all these people who are recast and all of these people who like entered and left projects, looking at
Mm-hmm.
Ant-Man with the Edgar Wright of it all. And I that kind of frustrated me, where it was that like, oh, it was so much better before. And we as
Mm-hmm.
like, lifer Star Wars fans have watched countless times the fandom like eat itself
Yep.
over, back, the special editions come out and we're longing for the theatrical. And then the prequels come out and we're longing for anything to do with the originals. And then the sequels come out and we're longing for the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's that weird cycle where it's like, oh, cool, the MCU is doing this to itself too now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think outside of Secret Invasion,
Yeah.
I don't think there is anything I personally would call a wholesale full-on whiff. I think that
Agreed.
there have been movies that have underperformed.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Eternals, didn't, crush it at the box office or anything like that. And, Brave New World had a lot going on with it. Um, you know, I I said before I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it, but it was not a movie that like I covered because of boycott stuff. But like, I think on the whole, there have been more hits than misses. There are things I don't love as much as others, but I
Mm-hmm.
can't say that I've watched a single, show or movie in the MCU and didn't walk away going, I enjoyed that to some
Mm-hmm.
degree. I think I've been net positive,
Mm-hmm.
with a few exceptions.
You might not agree with this, but like I look at everything since like like when Endgame ended. I think there have been more hits in like post Endgame than there were like phase 1 and 2.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're
Cause
wrong
like
at all. Absolutely. I mean, granted, you can also say like output was also cranked to
yeah,
a bajillion,
it
but
absolutely. But
I
like
still agree with you. I still agree with you wholeheartedly.
and even like the movies that like I didn't love, like when they first came out, like Eternals, the Marvels. Like I rewatched the Marvels recently, like on a like when I was coming back on a plane, like in the past like 2 or 3 months. And, like I hadn't seen it since it like had come out, and I really liked it the second time. Like, and maybe it sometimes with like some of these movies, like I'm like excited for like the anticipation I've built up, and that's probably not fair to like
Yeah.
a lot of these Marvel movies, but like I think when you get that out of your head and then you like take it for what it is, I think there's always something to enjoy. But like I said, the bitching and moaning always kills me because it's like what, yeah, man, like it's the same, like it's wizards in space with Star Wars. It's like guys with steroids punching people. Like
Yeah.
it's
We don't
and
punch and we
aliens
shoot
and
the gun. We all punch and
we,
shoot.
yeah, exactly.
But no, so like I was interested coming into this because of all of the hype, all of the best since Endgame, all of the flowers this movie was getting, and I was excited. I thought it was a good sign. I think I can say pretty definitively, I don't think this is my favorite post Endgame. I know that's the case
Mhm.
for a lot of people, but like No Way Home is a tough act to follow.
Mhm.
What were some of the other ones? I was talking about this the other night. No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness.
Mhm.
I think Multiverse of Madness is in my top 5 for the MCU. Period. So like,
I don't. I like that actually. I like Mom.
I like mom. Mom rules. Happy Mother's
As
Day.
so
Mom rules.
as someone whose mom just walked in, I love Mom.
And I love your mom, and I love my mom, and we all love moms.
Do you want to come? What you want
Um,
to wave real quick, Mama? Come say hi to the people. Say hi. There you go.
Hello.
What do you think about Thunderbolts?
I loved it.
Okay.
It was great.
See, that's the Leanne Sheehy seal of approval, if I've
I
ever heard
mean,
it.
yeah, end of review.
Yeah.
Stop!
And it,
Move away from the cookie jar!
that would be so fucking funny.
I would just let this run for like an hour and a half, so it looked like a full review, and it was just.
Just said it. Yeah, that's it. Cool.
She said it. No, but I was very impressed by this movie. I remember, and I feel like Thunderbolts had a bit of an uphill climb to sell a lot of
Mhm.
people. Again, the mixed, it's back, it's over, it's back, it's over, it's back, it's over, for a long time. I didn't know what to expect from this. Going in, the lineup was something that astounded me.
Mhm.
I didn't hate
It's
it.
real weird. It's real weird. Like looking at
Crazy
it now.
lineup. Like especially with the context that this is our new Avengers,
Mhm.
wildly underpowered. Which I also thought was interesting because even like traditional Thunderbolts, like yeah, like you have your handful of like super soldier or super assassin people,
Mhm.
but you also have like people with powers, that a little bit more than just heightened strength and agility.
Well,
And we have
you
Ghost
got.
there, obviously, but other than her, like that's really your
Mhm.
only like powered person.
It's true, and that's. I think I had hesitations, like, because I kind of thought that, like, okay, the asterisk means something. Like, I thought that they were gonna do like, oh well, it's the Dark Avengers or something like that, and
Yeah,
which would be like, I'd be okay with, but like, I agree, we just punch and shoot, but at the same time, like, Tony Stark is just a guy in a suit.
yeah,
They've got one super soldier. I mean, if you kind of look at it, you got Clint Barton, Black Widow, Captain America, Thor, and then the Hulk, and you're really only missing a Hulk, but like Sentry is kind of that, which is
I mean, it's like Val says, the Sentry is stronger than all the Avengers rolled up into one, and that is an objective truth. It's not just Val running her mouth, but like you have that stipulation that Bob by the end of the movie is like weird about using his powers. But like you said, even then, like you do have like I think they make up for the fact that it's not a traditional Avengers lineup
Mhm.
with the specialties of these characters. And again, going into Thunderbolts, I was like, "Oh, I'm fine with it." And I'm like, "These are our new Avengers." What? I was even more skeptical of, but like you said, I thought about it more, and I think you're right.
I will say, my Annie and I were talking about this. I don't know. I think Annie's probably been on the show at some point or on Knights of the Nerd Republic or anything like that. But like the characters in this, I think, are much more interesting than a lot of the Avengers were at this point. Like when they were avenging, like you know, oh, I
They
love
were
Scarlet.
Avengers is great.
I love Scarlett Johansson. I love Natasha, but like I'll take Yelena all day, every day, and then twice on Sundays. I think she's much more interesting. I think her her backstory and like her relationship with Yelena or with Natasha is a lot more interesting. And then these are just fundamentally flawed characters. And I think would do you
Yeah.
want like it's the like I liked Brave New World, and the thing that like stood out to me is you gave Steve gave them something to look up to, you gave them something to aspire to. I think there's a lot of that with the new Avengers and the Thunderbolts. Like, do you want your heroes to be like perfect, or do you want your heroes to be relatable? And I think a lot of this movie works because they're relatable. Because like, as someone who has recently gone through like a lot of pain, torment, and everything. Not like, and I'm fine. I'm not saying that to like set, but like
Of course, yeah.
watching these, these people that like I really like admire and like sympathize with and see some of myself in. Like I'd rather have that. Like like these are people who like at the end of the day, a hero is just somebody who just refuses to give up. And even like through all this, they didn't give up. Even like when they went up against the Sentry, and like it was just like, I'm gonna throw your little Wakanda hand, Bucky, and you guys are gonna run away. But like they came back and like I said, there's no blue light in the sky. It's just the the uh the way to save the day sometimes is just to give someone a hug and like
Yeah, and I agree with that because I think that what something like Thunderbolts opens the door to, as opposed to like our traditional MCU Avengers kind of headliners, is that in many ways the flaws of the main MCU Avengers, even their flaws are something to be aspire to, like
mhm,
Tony inherently is somebody who cares too much, and he is a control freak, and there are toxic elements to Tony Stark. But at the end of the day, this is somebody who cares deeply about the people around him
mhm,
and is incapable of like allowing harm to come. It's very, we just did our like 20th anniversary special about Revenge of the Sith. I see some of that like Anakin Skywalker, like I will burn the world just to save one person because I can't fathom losing them. With Thor, he's overconfident. With Steve, he is, kind-hearted to the point of naivety. Clint and Natasha are still in that kind of like morally gray, cynical place. And with Hulk or with Banner, he obviously has like that split persona. And here, like, this is just a group of fuck ups.
yeah,
Like it is what is at the core of the Suicide Squad, what is at the core of Guardians of the Galaxy. It is look at this group of objective fuck ups
hmm,
as they have to suit up and somehow save the world.
mhm,
And I do think there's something really fun about that, and I think that it is kind of I think it is kind of very deftly leaning into what I think the big theme of the multiverse saga has been. Even though obviously this film has nothing to do with outside of the post credit scene, the multiverse as a concept. But what the big thing of the multiverse saga has been moving on and growing past.
Mhm.
That has kind of been like the through line emotionally, moving on and growing past. It is, that has been everybody's core thing, moving on and growing past the losses of the Infinity Saga, or things that predated that, or growing past hurt. You look at Wakanda Forever and No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness, and pretty much all of these films and a great deal of the TV has been about accepting yourself as you are and moving on. And it's why I think I'm very excited for Doomsday, because I think it's not a mistake that Doctor Doom will inevitably be an evil Tony Stark.
Mhm.
Because it reinforces that, okay, look at all the growth you've had. Now look at me. I'm the embodiment of what was before, and you can't escape me. And how he's holding on too tight, I think, will be the thing. And to make the asterisk the new Avengers, this group of fuck ups, I think, is brilliant, because
Mhm.
it is these people who not only walk in the shadow of the traditional Avengers, all of them in some way, shape, or form. Walker and Bucky Walker, Bucky, and Alexi are both caught in the shadow of Captain America. Yelena and Alexi are caught in the shadow of Black Widow. Ghost cannot, I think, untangle her run in with Ant-Man, and the way that, like, no matter how much of a hard edge she wants to put on, it will all her life kind of is an extension of the mercy shown to her by Janet Van Dyne. And like I said, they're all kind of like in the shadow of what the Avengers were. And I think that while Sam, not to get lost in the post credit of it all, but just like in the brilliance of this being the team called the New Avengers, that while Sam is building up a team that will probably involve Carol Danvers and the Hulk and Wong and Strange and Spider-Man, this traditional hero team, the New Avengers exist as, we're moving on. We're moving past what was. We aren't trying to put that lightning back in a bottle. We're doing our own goddamn thing, and we're
Or
moving
that thunder
past it.
back in the bottle.
Put that thunder back in the bottle. Write that down. That could be something. Hold on. But yeah, I really, really, really came to appreciate the New Avengers lineup here. And we'll get back to the post-credit stuff, because that's what I have a lot of opinions about in terms of like the broader implications for the MCU and all that stuff. But I do want to focus on the film itself. Who was your favorite Thunderbolt?
Yelena. Like, there's something like, I kind of have a soft spot for John Walker too, just because like I think there is something for like, this was there's always that scene in The Falcon and Winter Soldier was, you made me. Like when he's like, and like he is just a product of what people have told him, and if people have like made him into. And like him at the end of the day, still like he's an asshole. Like, and that's like, I love that scene with Bob at the beginning where it's just like, you talk about Captain America, you're an asshole. Like, I love that. Like, it's a good introduction to like, Bob, even though like, Bob is funny and like, despite everything, he's not like the Void or whatever. But there's just something about Yelena that like, and I hate, I don't want to get super personal, but like there's a line in where he's like the big like she's talking to Alexi after like they've been beat the shit out of by Sentry, and like they
What an
haven't,
incredible ass whooping too.
so it was so bad, but like they're, that whole like interaction between them, like if you would have cared, you would have called. Like all of that stuff. Like I think that's why this movie works so well, is because like the action's good, and yes, there's quips, and yes, everything is like you know, everything you want in a Marvel movie, but like the emotional depth and like the core of it is, God, like these people are so broken, but at the end of the day, like a hero is just somebody who refuses to give up, and even after everything that they've been through, they refuse to give up, even when it's easy. Like they're just like Lexi's like, we need to go like regroup and have a chat, but
Yeah.
we need to
Well,
go figure this out. But
Not to cut you off. I think I love the fact that like, and I know what you're getting at. I'm just weighing in on the. I just realized Cookie Cup's not on the shelf because I had to take him down because of Epic Confrontations continuity. So there he is. And I don't want to chance that shelf falling on me. But I love the fact that they do run the fuck away on some level. Like they swoop in to help people in the street, of course. But I love that, like, even in the first Avengers movie, whenever Loki has his, savant escape plan where his mind controlled shield agents bum rush the helicarrier and all of that, it's still kind of like they get a moment of dignity because the bad guy had to run away.
Mm-hmm.
And even in Avengers Age of Ultron, their retreat to the Barton farm, there's a level of dignity to that.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, okay, we got to go underground, we got to plan our next move. No matter how badly the OG Avengers got their shit kicked in those first two movies, we didn't watch shields get folded up. We didn't watch Bucky's arm get pried out of its socket, and we didn't watch them like shuffle into an elevator and huff it away. And we're only saved by the fact that Sentry/Void wanted to monologue at Val.
Mm-hmm.
Like that right there, I think speaks to that level of, oh yeah, we had to run away. We chose to get back in the fight. But it speaks to that again, like unexpected hero and underdog nature to the Thunderbolts and the new Avengers, that it was like, oh, we got our shit kicked in. We need to run away.
Yep.
In a
And
very kind of demeaning way.
I know like it was telegraphed like from the beginning, but like the thing that Alexei says to Yelena at the beginning, like the happiest I was when I was just saving people. And then like you get them just saving people. Like, and they're all like that hits. I think that's like more than anything. At the end of the day, these are just like people that like refused to give up and then like saved people in the street. Like, and even like I know I've seen some people complaining about like the debris hitting it takes 4 of them to take care of the debris, and I'm kind of like, yeah, it's a piece of a fucking building. What do you expect?
Yeah. Nobody here is Hulk or Thor strong, and this is also their first time operating as a unit. Like look at the Avengers were not doing crazy team combos like until Age of Ultron. There's a couple moments in the first Avengers, where like Cap like boosts Yelena up into the air or boosts Natasha up into the air, and there's like one of my favorite moments in that whole movie, the like Tony shooting the repulsors for Cap to reflect back with the shield. There's small moments, but you don't get that like real team synergy that we see in Age of Ultron, in the first Civil War, until they've had some time to really work together. I'm sure by the time we see them in Avengers Doomsday, they're going to be doing all kinds of cool combos, and they're going to be way more efficient and way more Johnny on the spot with these moments. But in the meantime, it's, I need a boost. Help me now. And it takes all of them because it should. And I do love what you're saying there with, just happy saving people. Cause again, it's what makes characters like this so compelling is you can dress up how you feel and the hurt you've experienced in this, heavy coat of cynicism all you want. At the end of the day, we all know, like, if there's somebody's life is on the line, you're going to risk yours to save it. And, it speaks to Yelena's bravery where she kind of like on a gut instinct walks into the void, hoping A, I can make my way out, and B, hoping that like the others will join her in that same act of like bravery and camaraderie. You know, it shows how far they've come from everybody shooting at everybody.
Yes. And I think like the connections between them like feel real too. Like there's obviously like she steps into the void because she like believes that Bob can be saved. And like this is Bob is dealing with what she's dealing with. And like if that's I think how do I say this without sounding like higher than thou? Like it just feels like, you know, I think a lot of like, you know, when if you've dealt with depression and stuff like that, when you find somebody else who's also dealing with what you're dealing with, there's a sense of like I don't know if camaraderie is the right way, but there's a sense of deep empathy that like you know what they're dealing with, and like that's why you're gentle with them. And I really like that with Bob and Elena. So like I think that's part of it with the void that worked for me the best.
Absolutely. And I do want to talk about Sentry on his own here in a second as well, because that was just incredible. I'll also say for me, in terms of favorite Thunderbolt, I'm going to remove Bucky from the equation for a moment. Just because like I think his arc and his role in this story is not as similar to some of the other members. So in terms of just favorite of the group of fuck ups barring Winter Soldier, I've been a Red Guardian guy since Black Widow.
Hell yeah.
That's my boy.
That's a really underrated movie, by the way. That I don't feel like a lot of people don't talk about. Like I love that movie. I rewatched it for this, and like it's better than most, like I said, Phase 1 movies. But anyway, keep going.
I agree. But I love Red Guardian, and I was surprised how much I glommed onto John Walker. Because Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I've said before, is probably one of my least favorites of the shows.
Hard disagree. It's my favorite. Valid. It's my favorite. It's my favorite one.
I get it. I understand. For me, again, this is nothing to do with this discussion, but just for me, I just think like the final episode is such a fucking mess. And like I just feel like it gets ready to say a lot of shit and then just kind of stops mid-sentence. That's neither here nor there for this conversation. But watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I enjoyed John Walker as a heel. You know, I thought he was such a great, you know, indictment of, you know, the difference between how I think a lot of people interpret Captain America as this patriotic, hokey, it's at times jingoism, when in reality it is supposed to be an ideal worth aspiring to. Captain America does not swear allegiance to a flag or the American government. It is that fealty is sworn to the concept of the American dream. And juxtaposing those two things of like, look at this like military created Captain America who's all, you know, like high school football championships and apple pies and picket fences and whatever. And how unstable and image obsessed he is, and how that is emblematic of like the America we're given as opposed to the America that we should aspire to with Sam. And how with that comes the potential of redemption and, you know, kind of embodied by Bucky Barnes. And but thinking of John as that symbol of like, this is what we are and what we wish we couldn't be. It didn't have to be. Taking him and going and look at what that image obsession has done to him. And look at the ways that it has destroyed all of his relationships and how it has jaded him and how, you know, all he has is U.S. agent and Val. It's just everything about his character and the ways that he lets his actions speak for who he is at his core and who I think he wants to be. Just do so much for me in terms of seeing him in this story and me loving the MCU version of US Agent.
And also, like, there's something, like, for me, the entire movie, he's calling Bob Bobby. And something that, like, kind of showed me that, like, okay, yeah, he's not totally an asshole. Like, they have, like, the room where, like, they see, like, that's what Bobby is, the name that his dad called him. And the
Yeah.
minute, like, that happens, he stops calling him Bobby. Like, it's just Bob. You okay, Bob? Like, even like, he is like, what's the line in Falcon? I've lived by your mandates. Like, this is somebody who has done everything that, like, he was told, everything that the government had told him to do, everything the military had told him to do. But, like, at the end of the day, like, he saw somebody who was getting beaten by his dad and calling him the name that he was calling him, and then he stopped calling him that because, like, dude, I don't want anything to do with that. Like, I don't want to hurt you because you've been through enough.
Absolutely, absolutely, and again, I think that is emblematic of, like, another big theme of, like, the conflict between being what I'm told I am versus being what I believe I am, I want to be, and believe that I truly am. And I think moments like that where, like, John Walker and all of the Thunderbolts / New Avengers at the beginning of the film are kind of, like, consigned to being what they were told they were.
What Val was telling them that they were.
Yeah, especially Val. Where with Yelena, it's just that, like, yeah, I'm a killer with nothing to live for. And with Red Guardian, it's I'm the USSR bootleg Captain America and I'm kind of a fucking fraud. And with Ghost, it is that push and pull of, like, I had nothing to live for except trying to survive, and now what do I live for now that I survived my condition? Walker, who is marred by, I was I was kind of the industry plant Captain America, and then I ruined that potential because everybody watched me in broad daylight go through with a bad kill. Like,
Which
all of that. What were you saying?
I know yes, absolutely, it's the bad kill, but, like, if someone killed your best friend, like,
oh yeah, again, that's not to say that I don't see where what happened to him. It's just that nature of, like, if you're stepping into the boots of Captain America, being witnessed in broad daylight committing an act of blatant revenge is a bad luck, especially when
not
that
great.
guy surrenders. Like,
Yeah.
he got knocked to the ground and went, wait, I'm done, I'm sorry, I'm done. Steve Rogers would have, he maybe would have sucker punched the guy and then cuffed him, but John Walker cut the motherfucker in half. So yeah, but I love what you're saying there with he recognizes that, and I think John, as a father, as an absentee father, as a kind of shitty father, at least as he is depicted in the film, goes, oh, yeah, I'm not going to be that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's that active choice of, oh no, Bob, drop the E, Bob. And then you juxtapose that with Val, who has just fully taken to being just as cruel and Machiavellian as she has been, but, like, she doesn't give herself the space to be more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And
you don't think Nick Fury went through shit? Like, that's like Nick Fury chose to be something better. Like, yeah, her backstory is tragic. Like, I can't imagine, like, having the guilt that, like, you feel like you had your father killed because of you trusted somebody, like that's awful. But like
Yeah.
what she's doing is like, it's like there's another universe where like she gets together the Dark Avengers and they're just like evil, like like
Yeah.
they're just bad, just
Where she would do what
terrible
Norman
people.
Osborn did in the comics, where it's
Yeah,
like, okay, I
absolutely.
need a Spider-Man, so I'm going to hire a Venom, and I need a
Mhm.
Hawkeye, so I'm going to hire Bullseye. I
Mhm.
need a Wolverine. Hey, Dakin, you're
Mhm.
psychotic. And building that up. You're absolutely right. And so like she retreats inward and becomes this like agent of cruelty and callousness. And and then you have Sentry / the Void, which is that like, which I think shows you let yourself become what other people think of you, and what the negative self-talk emboldens you to think of yourself, and it drives you into the void. And what I really liked about this iteration of Sentry, really liked, is that nice little dash of Homelander.
Mhm.
That
It
dash of Homelander, like it was like putting like an extra little bit of a sauce on a really good burger
Mhm.
that
It
just takes it from like an A to an A plus plus.
I struggle with putting Homelander in anything because I know that people that could not pass a 7th grade language arts class are just now going to be like, oh yeah, Homelander's so cool. And like, it's going to be your childhood bully's favorite character. So like,
Yeah.
but like, I think you're right because there is just a small part of Homelander in it, but at the same time, like,
As I was saying with the sauce thing, like there's
yeah,
not so
it's
much
just
Homelander in there that it overwrites
mhm.
Sentry, the character from Marvel Comics, but I can taste it. I can taste the Homelander, and it makes me
I
very happy.
I can already see the criticism from the worst people that saying that, oh, Sentry is letting women dictate everything that he's doing,
Oh my god.
and and so I
You're
just
right.
like
That is like the obvious brain broken take, and I didn't
mhm,
think of it. And
uh-huh,
that's why you're a
and
great fit here, because you thought of it before I did.
so listen, but like why I think Sentry like in Bob and also I know that Stephen Yoon was supposed to be Sentry, but like and I think
Yeah.
he would have done a good job, but like Lewis Pullman, man, like he like the I think why I love this character or why I like the character as much as I do is because like he does like everything about the Sentry really fucking wonderful. Like it's all like yeah, he's funny, he's kind of like this awkward dude, but then like at the same time like when he dyes his hair, like he's kind of like yeah, I'm the Sentry, but then like when he's getting there's a little moment like when he's talking about like dyeing his hair or whatever where he's talking to Val. He's like, well, I didn't think it bothered me, but then like it's just like the back and forth, like the inner monologue, and then like to also go from that to like, well, I'm a god. Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Like, why do I need you? Like, it's just he goes from like so many different things in such a like short span of time where I'm just like, that's incredible.
Absolutely. And in that, like that gauntlet he runs, again, with the funniest ass kicking I've ever seen in the MCU
Hmm.
after Bucky getting that like fucking Naruto pressure point thing into his arm falling off. So funny. But like just the effortlessness with which he defeats the Thunderbolts into, like you said, that monologue there with Val, where it's like, I'm a god, and she's like, I think we're throwing that G word around a little bit. He's like, well, you said it was stronger than all the Avengers rolled into one, and there's at least one god
Hmm.
there. So but
Absolutely.
it is that kind of like, and again, I've experienced this where it's like, oh, well, everybody says that I am this that and this, and you kind of like get into this like whirlwind of if this then that, if that then this, and you get into all of that, and then you just kind of stop in the middle of it and go, fuck it, I'm nothing. And like where he fully gives into the Void persona. Like you said, like it felt like a very fast progression and fast like self-realization, but it was organically fast.
Mhm.
It was organically somebody who just goes, well, all my friends fucking hate me because they think I'm a monster, and you think I'm your puppet and plaything, and I fucking hate myself. So fuck it. We're all going to the dark place with me.
Mhm.
I thought that was incredible. And like with and I think that again, adding that pinch of Homelander, because for anybody who's not familiar with Sentry in the comics, the whole angle with him was that he was this forgotten hero of old. And that when he was being introduced in the early 2000s, that it was like these older comic book covers from the 40s with Sentry added to it. And then the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and like all of the storied history of Marvel up to that point, where they were retroactively going, the Sentry was there the whole time. But through some cosmic, comic book gobbledygook, we forgot. And that it's like Sentry and the Void are these conflicting personas. And that he was kind of this dyed-in-the-wool perfect superhero. The Superman power set and, that just imposing, outfit kind of, frame that he cuts. And I'm going to stop in the middle of that to have a moment of me being charitable. We all know the memes of the, Zack Snyder was the blueprint stuff.
I don't even think Zack Snyder thinks that. Zack Snyder does not think he was the blueprint.
I am going to give Zack Snyder credit for something.
Write it down. Hold on. Stop. Hold on. 9:25 p.m. May 6th, 2025.
At 47 minutes in our Thunderbolts review.
All right. What do you got?
I think that the aesthetic that Man of Steel and the Snyderverse created for Superman has become an incredible shorthand for Superman.
Yeah.
When one is trying to evoke Superman in one's mind, when you look at a lot of comic book media post Man of Steel, aesthetically, they look like Henry Cavill's Superman. It's true of Homelander. Was Jupiter Rising or whatever that one
Ascending.
fucking Netflix
Jupiter
show?
Ascending.
Jupiter Ascending.
No. Dark Moon. Is that
Not
what it is?
Not Rebel Moon. The one Netflix show where like everybody had on like a Henry Cavill Superman suit, basically. Which I can't remember the name of it. I don't even know if it's on Netflix anymore.
Jupiter's Legacy?
That might be it. I don't remember.
I've never heard of it.
But it has become such a shorthand. And granted, a lot of that is because, evil Superman as a trope and all of that baggage. But like even like Injustice Superman aesthetically looks like Henry Cavill. And sure, that was probably corporate synergy and like, let's give him the padding and like some of the lines and texture. But there's something about the Henry Cavill Superman aesthetic that evokes Superman but wrong. And I don't add that caveat at the end as like a carrot and stick to my Zack Snyder phrase here, but I think it's in the DNA.
My thing, and I don't want to go deep into my thoughts on Zack Snyder and like Superman. What I appreciate about Henry Cavill's Superman, like up until like, I think Henry Cavill could have been a great Superman.
But I think it could have been a pretty good one.
My mom just burped really loudly.
Sensational. That's his word.
I don't know if you can hear it. You're probably not going to be able to hear it, but like that was amazing. But I love that, like, Henry Cavill could have been a good Superman. He was never given the opportunity to do so. Like,
No.
it's what's ironic about, like, the Justice League is that, like, it kind of puts Cavill in the perfect spot to be the hopeful Superman that I think James Gunn is going to do. And then he just is only Superman again in Black Adam for like 10 seconds. So, like,
Black Adam has to be studied. No, I just realized this is your second time on the main show because you
'Cause
were
we
onto
did-
the Aquaman review.
That's
For
right.
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, because we had our
Mhm.
conversation about the cockroach on a cheeseburger being the like perfect metaphor
It's delicious.
for the
It's delicious.
DCEU.
It's a little cream filled kind, as Pumbaa or Timon would say.
Cocaine and some vodka. I'm still thinking about that. But no, and I think it is a great shorthand, and I think that like taking this story that is about a crisis of like a self-identity crisis and about depression and that negative self-talk being just the ultimate monster that one has to overcome, and then putting that again Homelander style cynical, what even is a superhero? It's the outfit and the hair and the powers and the this, where it's just this cynical, I'm gonna tell you what I need you to be, and you better fucking be it. And that the way that much like Homelander, it creates a deeply self-hating person
Yep.
because they have no identity beyond what has been foisted upon them.
Mm-hmm.
And I
that's
love
like-
that dash of Homelander.
It's the perfect amount of Homelander. Too much.
Yes.
It. You know, I think you're right, because like it feels very, very. Like I said, I love Lewis Pullman's take on it, because like it's so much so that I kind of like, yeah, it's interesting to think of Steven Yeun as him, but like at the same time, like I think he did so much right with it that I can't really see anybody else as him, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's going to be one of those like what if, casting things that we're going to think of until the end of time, I think. But yeah, no, I think this movie is incredible, and I love, coming back to Bucky for a moment.
Mhm.
What I love about Bucky's role here, I going into Avengers Endgame 1,000 years ago, I was very much I can go either way, because I was like, Steve is going to retire and the shield is getting passed down, and I could go either way on whether or not it went to Bucky or Sam. And there was a part of me that wanted it to be Bucky so that Bucky could then hand it to Sam. Or even that it would be Sam wants, or Steve wants to give it to Sam. Sam says, give it to Bucky. And then Bucky goes, Steve was right in the first place. Please fucking take this,
Mhm.
because I can't. And what I really like about this is that it does give Bucky the opportunity to be the leader now.
And he is, and like
that he could never lead the like idyllic version of the Avengers,
but
he
like
has to be the king of the fuck ups, and this group of people who want to be more than the fuck ups, but they're still the fuck ups. And I
Mhm.
love that it's like, no, the Winter Soldier is going to be the person who leads these people into being something greater than themselves, or
I
what they
agree.
think of themselves. And that I think it's a perfect decision for him as a character to be exactly where he is right now.
And I think, and I know we haven't gotten into it yet, but like with the post credits of it all, like Bucky and Sam being at odds, were like, this is we're the government sponsored Avengers team, and then Sam is like making his own like. Hold on, what did I texted to one of my coworkers, because like he got me in on this, like he really like was talking about the the kind of the civil war of it. I was like, he was talking about that. Thinking about this since you sent it to me has me thinking it's so interesting that Bucky and Sam are now on opposite sides of this when they were on the same side in Civil War, and it makes sense that Sam would be upset with him being the new Avengers, like the leader of that. I just know Sam is hitting him with the Steve would never have stood for this because like it's such an interesting dynamic between those two because like they easily could have been, like you said, either one of them could have been like the next Captain America, but now that they are at odds and like there's a copyright claim, like it's so interesting to me. It really just like I want to put something out to you, and like this is I've been thinking about this since I like saw the movie because like I obviously I love the movie, but like I'm kind of worried that there isn't enough time between Thunderbolts or the New Avengers and Doomsday. If this had come out like a year ago or like 2 years ago, and like you give me all this stuff that we're getting now, like there's 2 separate Avengers teams. There's, the Fantastic Four coming in at the end. And then there's like 2 or 3 more movies before we get into Doomsday. It doesn't feel like there's time to breathe between all that.
Did
What
you
do you
read?
think?
Did you see my message I put in the group chat we're in?
No, which one?
I said exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
It was
cool.
very long and in invisible ink, which makes
Okay.
it damn near impossible to get through.
Okay, that's why. Okay.
Real quick. Apple, I love invisible ink. It is great when you're in a group chat with a bunch of nerds and we're all watching the same shit at different times. It's wonderful. Please, for the love of God, add a function to say dismiss invisible ink. Holy shit.
Time out real quick. Can I pee real quick?
Go piss, girl.
Pee? Go. I'm gonna go.
But yeah, no, I totally agree with you on the timetable thing. And again, this is one of those things, like I said at the very beginning, I like this movie a lot. And I like the idea of what it is setting up.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have time for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have the only things we have left in the MCU before Doomsday are Fantastic Four and Ironheart.
And Wonder Man.
And Wonder Man. I keep forgetting that's actually happening still. Because they shelved it and then brought it back like a week later. Mm-hmm. I am trepidatious of this idea that we're going to go into the next Russo brothers directed, I can't remember if it's Martin or McFeely writing, whichever one of them, but one of them, written Avengers film that is going to begin with the Avengers, 2 kind of de facto leaders at odds with each other on a very personal level on different ends of the spectrum as a horrific cosmic threat begins to bear down on Earth while we are trying to manage 55 fucking characters. This feels way too similar to Infinity War already, and we already know that Dr. Doom has to win. Sorry, yeah, what were you saying?
Here's something that I've just been thinking about. Okay, so in a perfect world, I think we get that Thunderbolts, New Avengers came out a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Then you've got, your Doctor Strange 3, your Spider-Man, your Fantastic Four. You get all the movies that you kind of need until you lead into Doomsday. I'm kind of the opinion now that you just split both movies into 2, one or the other. These movies are gonna make $1.5 billion, $2 billion each. It just feels like there isn't enough time to give everybody. And listen, part of me is also Infinity War works really, really well. Endgame works really, really well. They did deserve a chance to do it, but at the same time, like, it also would not surprise me if, like, at Comic-Con this year, they're like, all right, we got Fantastic Four for you. And then, like, it's Secret Wars Part 1 and Part 2, and then, or Avengers Doomsday Part 1 and Part 2. Because, like, you give me... It's really, really hard for me to imagine a world where you get everything that you need to set up Secret Wars in a 2.5-hour movie.
And granted, they do have a couple movies between Avengers this time that I
But,
think
like-
are gonna like live in that like shattered multiverse world.
So, like, you've got Fantastic Four in July, and then you've got Doomsday's the next movie.
Yeah.
So, like, one of them's got to be split in two. Secret Wars is probably the most likely one, but, like, I still think that, like, and I'm always a proponent of, like, sure, give me the 3-hour Doomsday cut. Give me the 5.5-hour, like, you know, it just feels like we're rushing into it when...
No, I don't fully disagree with that at all. And I don't know. For me, it's kind of a different worry. You know, like part of me is like, they're going to do what they're going to do with Doomsday and Secret Wars. And I'm sure I'm going to love it. I'm going to clap and see it 80 times. For me, it's just like, I really like this idea of at the exact moment Sam began again with the Avengers and was getting ready to like make a concerted effort to rebuild the Avengers, Val institutes the new Avengers in a way that Steve would be appalled by. And but
also,
it's
you
still
know...
valuable, but it's still antithetical to what it was supposed to be. And they're
And you know
and they're
Sam
going to
wanted
blows
Bucky in
about
it too.
Of
You know Sam
course.
wanted Bucky in it. Like, that's like, I think that's part of it
Yes.
too, is that, like, he had, like, all of us, we all have our own Avengers, like, lineup that we have in our heads that, like, Sam had the exact same thing, I think, where he's like, it's going to be me, it's going to be Ramirez, it's going to be Bucky, and then everything else.
Yeah,
we'll
like
add,
I have
we'll add
this
from
3
there.
locked in, and then
Yeah,
we'll go and
yeah.
we'll see how big the roster gets. I really like the idea of a divided Avengers over who gets to truly be the new Avengers. I love that idea. I would love to have seen that film, but I can't help but assume that this is going to get kind of barreled past in Doomsday. Or what I'm afraid of is that it will define why the Avengers lose in Doomsday. And again, feels too samey to Infinity War. Now, that
But, like...
said, you could do that with intention. And the point be, we are making the mistakes of our forebears. Fuck. We let it happen again. You know, very Star Wars sequel trilogy where it's like, oh, like, you know, the Empire just came back. And it's like, yeah, that's the fucking point, is this shit doesn't just go away. Maybe that's the intent. But this feels like such a big swing at so late in the game that I'm having a hard time rationalizing it, other than, you know, the Avengers are a divided house. And then,
that's
another thing will come in and fuck it all up, you know?
Also, we haven't even talked about, like, okay, it would be one thing if, like, it was just the Avengers, but, like, the new Avengers versus, like, whatever these other Avengers that Sam is doing, that would be, like, a whole thing. But then you've got the X-Men. You've got
And the 4,
the Fantastic Four. Like, it just feels like there is so much, like... I know it'll probably won't happen because I think that, like, the hype for Doomsday is too high, but, like, I'm kind of at the point where, like, I'm either, like, I talk about Comic-Con again. It's just switch, switch where Spider-Man and Doomsday show, like, Doomsday is now, like, August, July, and then, like, Spider-Man is now June, or, like, move back, because, like, a Doomsday in October or September, like, that's, like, humongous.
It also assuades my worries about Mando and Grogu and Doomsday coming out of the same month.
Yeah, so, like, if, like, it's the synergy, man. That's why like Monopoly's work is because you have Mando and Grogu.
Monopoly Go! Hold on, I still have the clip.
Stop it! Do not.
Well, I will see you all weekend long, but I am here with a very exciting announcement. In collaboration with our friends at Scopely, we are bringing Star Wars to one of the most popular mobile games. So get ready to roll your dice and jump into Lightspeed as we experience an all-new limited time event in Monopoly Go!
The funniest thing.
I know we talked about this in our Star Wars celebration episode, but like looking over at you and like talking like us having the same thought. This is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in my entire life. But also at the same time being like, it is what it is. So,
It's like she was announcing an Ahsoka movie, but it was Monopoly
yeah,
Go.
it's Monopoly Go.
I just wish I could transport people to the moment that happened, and the way that you and I just both looked at each other and went, "It's time for bed. It's time for us to go to bed."
It was time for bed at that moment.
Oh, fucking A. But yeah, like I said, I'm very curious to see where this is going, how much this new Avengers versus Avengers conflict will play a role in Doomsday.
Mhm.
I don't want that like kind of trepidation to take away from how much I loved this movie. And I think it's one of those issues that that is kind of bred into the MCU because it is such a multi-project, multimedia venture, is that one cannot watch an individual thing and not think about the other things that it's going to play into. It's a feature, not a bug. But these are one of those instances where I wish I could forget about that just so I can fully appreciate what this movie did and not think about what the implications down the
I
road.
will say, I think this movie does stand on its own. Like,
Yes.
I think that's what, like, when you look at the like great MCU movies, like that's it. Like, it's not just like that. It's an interconnected story. Like a lot of them are, but like they stand on them by themselves. You were talking about it earlier, but like, the post credits like scene, like an most consequential post credit scene, and probably, God, when was the last one that meant anything? Probably like Infinity War, Endgame. Like, you said you had thoughts on it. Like what specifically? Like, because like first of all, like for me, like just their looks all looked great. Like Bucky all looks like comic accurate. Like really really cool shit.
Oh, I
But like
love the suits. I love the new Avengers uniforms. I love
Mhm.
Bucky's with like the red star emblazoned on his arm. My thoughts are just the weird like, oh, this is a really cool idea. It sucks that this will probably get hand waved in Doomsday.
Yeah.
Like that, like that's my thing. Is that like I really love how this movie ends, where it ends. I love the abruptness of it. I love that again. It feels like another echo of earlier moments of the MCU where the way that it ends with the new Avengers and you get Yelena's "We own you now." But then kind of like it ends, very I am Iron Man. It felt like that, like we're just boom, fuck you, the movie's over now. And I loved that it ended like that, and then it leads into the post credit of Sam's pissed and this copyright thing and all of again the copyright thing's funny, and I know it's mostly played for laughs in the way that Marvel social media now has a copyright emoji next
It's
to
great. That's
Avengers.
brilliant. That's great.
Like
I love that. I love that a lot.
phenomenal. I love all of that. My gripe, my thoughts on that post credit is, geez, I hope we're able to do something with this before it's no longer the status quo. And that was my big hot take that I was alluding to earlier that you like also that you said
Hey,
you shared.
listen.
So
call me Salt and Pepper because we need to push it. We need to push it real good, real good. Like once again, I agree with you, and I'm really glad we had the same thought after seeing this movie. Like, hey, this should have been like a year ago, 2 years ago. Like, because like if this was like you have this and then more explanation of like, okay, this is what we're leading into Doomsday. But now I'm at to the point where like, man, like just like push it a little bit because like give us a couple. Like there's other movies in the can you can do. There's more stories that you can do. Like that gives us to like the Fantastic Four and like because now what's gonna happen? And I want you to pin this right now.
Okay. Hour and 20.
What you're gonna
hour and 20 seconds.
Here's what's gonna happen in Fantastic Four. I'm gonna love Fantastic Four. I already know I'm gonna love Fantastic Four. But like the post-credit scene is, or it's gonna be them, you know, if it's not Galactus winning or whatever, it's them. They've already like mentioned in the trailers where it's like I bended the multiverse too much, and then it's that, and then they're exploring and they get stuck. But then like that's the first post-credit scene. The second, that's the mid-credit scene. The second one is some variation of Doctor Doom say, "Oh God, I guess it's Doomsday now." Like that's what it's gonna be, like unless they like. So I think Comic-Con is, I think it's the same weekend when the Fantastic Four comes out. So like,
okay.
So like, if they like announce like a shifting, where like, okay, Spider-Man Brand New Day is same where it's at, but like now Doomsday, because like it's just not enough time to like give one of the that will inevitably be one of the most profitable movies of all time a year from like where they just started filming to when it releases. That's not sustainable. That's like, I know Feige like will make it work if he has to, but like, come on, man, give it the space it needs.
I agree with you for the most part on that. Like I said, I'm not as worried about the timetable for the movie. I just really like this plot line.
Well, and here's the thing,
and I don't want to lose it.
Here's the thing with God, I'm to be Bob Iger right now, and to be like, hey, I'm gonna move my film from Los Angeles to London. That will have no adverse side effects. This is we listen. It'll be easy. We'll have all the tax incentives. There'll be nothing that will that ruin this.
Listen, we're gonna talk about Trump's weird May the 4th post on KNR this week.
Are we? Oh, thank God.
Well, don't worry, I wasn't gonna let you miss out on that because I wanted to bitch about it too. I have to say, and I said this in the group chat we're both in, I think I have a new favorite, hilariously insane thing Trump has ever said.
What is it?
And it was one of those instances where I had to hear, as actually, I think both times it was the same person who's not Trump reading it aloud. Cody Johnston of Some More News and Even More News fame. Just one of my favorite shows of all time. But he was talking about that weird interview. I think it was with Meet the Press. Where
with Kristen Welker? Yeah.
Yeah, when Welker was like, such a non sequitur for this movie. But she was like, well, the dolls are going to get more expensive.
Well, you don't need.
It says, you know, if there's a
Get it out.
If there's a beautiful baby girl, pause, who is 11 years old.
11 years old. Yep. Can I listen? I don't want to get
funny. It like that because and that is dethroned. And they
not to be political.
You go, person, woman, man, camera, TV. Like those are the two top dogs for me.
Well, and
Of
here's the thing.
hilarious things this evil man has said. You bringing up the weird movie tariff shit reminded me. But
I remember a couple years ago when like they were talking about like when Don Jr. got in trouble, and he was like, he's just a kid of 40. Like that's why like he's a baby girl of 11 years old. Yeah, I mean like if
a beautiful
if
baby girl who's 11 years old. Like nobody talks like that. His
Can I say
syntax
something?
is so funny.
And I know we have similar views, but like come on, man. Like what a baby girl to be so out of touch that like a baby girl to you when your best friend in the world is Jeffrey Epstein is 11 years old. A baby girl to you is 11. I mean, that makes sense. Like
death to all of them.
This motherfucker don't miss.
No, he's fucking good.
That
I just realized I have to replace that clip because both people in that fucking video infuriate me now.
yeah. You know, Israel's sweetest boy, Michael Rappaport.
And Donald Trump's favorite rapper, Snoop Dogg. But anyway.
Yeah,
Thunderbolts
so
is very
that's the
good.
Thunderbolts. That's the
It's the
Thunderbolts.
new Avengers. That's the new Avengers. It's just a bunch of beautiful baby girls who are 11 years old.
11-year-old baby girls.
Again, it's the pacing of it's a beautiful baby girl, pause, who's 11 years old. And then it has that's the shot, and then you also get the chaser of, and instead of 250 pencils, you have 5 pencils.
What? Who? Okay. Here's the thing.
This is an evil man, and it's not fair that the shit he says, and more importantly, the way he says it, is so fucking funny.
I think what's the biggest liberal failing of the Trump administration is that you've got like okay, so Trump isn't like let the the fluffers that are Tim Pool and like all these other like
Tim Pool and fluffer is crazy work.
You've let all these people in, but you can't like there's not one smart like liberal who can be like, oh, Mr. President, let me into the media. Like, oh God, you're so great. And then ask him like truly like a difficult question. Like, what do you mean by beautiful 11-year-old baby girls? And how does it have to do with your best friend, Jeffrey Epstein? Like, how can we like, can we
New
not
York financier?
Yeah. Of New York financier fame. I was talking to a New York financier. He said he knew you very very personally.
Dear friend.
Dear friend Jeffrey Epstein.
I almost said friend of the pod, and I was like,
Friend
that's not funny.
of the
That's
pod,
not funny.
Jeffrey Epstein.
That's not funny. But
can I say something?
Wait.
This is like the first like full-time like non-Star Wars podcast of yours that I've been on as a member of the Nerd Academy, and it went into Jeffrey Epstein, beautiful baby girl of 11 years old, and like that's why I'm here. Like that's why
that's the Nerd Academy way, baby.
That's it.
Oh,
so
my
what I'm
God.
trying to say is Star Wars Celebration Los Angeles 2027. I can't wait to be on the podcast stage with special guest Kathleen Kennedy.
Yes, we will be interviewing Kathleen Kennedy.
We'll be doing Kathleen Kennedy.
Watch your job, Carboni. You got another day to go coming to fill your shoes right here.
Oh God. So Thunderbolts is good.
Thunderbolts is great.
It's really, really good. I really liked it.
Bill, where can the lovely people find you, my friend?
You can find me on Blue Sky, Twitter, and Instagram at Star Wars Bill. And you can find me here whenever Jarod asks me. And good stuff. I've had so much fun doing this the past couple of like the past 2 times that we've recorded. thank you so much for having me and asking me to be a part of it. So
Of course.
I'm happy to be here, and hopefully we'll get a big Comic-Con announcement where we've got Doomsday Part 1 and 2 and Secret Wars Part 1 and 2. So
That would be fucking insane. Real quick, before I do my pluggables, because this came up before when I was in Kentucky. We were kicking it. Pardon my hiccup and burp. That was disgusting. It's worse because I'm right here with the microphone.
at least it wasn't your mother. It's all good.
We talked whenever I was over last about how you're one of the only other people I know who listen to Pod Save America.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite things that has happened in the last few episodes I've listened to is right before they get to the interview for that episode, John Lovett just says something wildly cancelable. At the very end. Now, granted, as a gay man, he can call whatever members of the Trump administration the F slur as much as he wants. I'm queer, and I'm not going to say it on a microphone.
What's the F slur?
To
Which one
ask
are you talking
Steven
about?
Crowder, it would be fig. Polish that.
Are we talking about the golden
again.
brooch? The golden brooch.
It was the golden brooch was the first time I heard Lovett just call a member of the Trump administration the F slur. And then in the episode of Pod Save America today, he kind of out of nowhere crashed out and did a very long, elaborate bit about Ashley Babbitt.
Yep. Okay, I'm so glad you said this because I listened to it today. Like,
and I'm realizing that like that is our dynamic. Is by the end of the episode, you and I will start toying with some like hotter material and kind of touch it and pull back and like Epstein joke, maybe.
no, hold on. It's both of us giving each other permission to go in.
It's the silent. Take it further. Say it. Do it.
Because listen, I think a lot of the podcasts I've been on before have been like, Bill, be fun, be silly, and then it's like, but like, what if I like taking it to whatever edge it is, and then like
I would like
stopping
to think,
there
as a podcast made up of like at this point all white dudes.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really go into like an edgy, obnoxious place, but the times it does, it's tastefully.
Oh, listen, I still think about when you were here, and I said the slur that I didn't mean to say, and I was just like, I fucking said this.
Nothing
and like,
has
can
ever
we
been
cut
funnier to me than you going, I've never even said that word before. I don't know why I said it just now. Objectively the funniest part of that moment. But yeah.
And you can go look at it at the celebration.
Yeah, celebration day 3, right at the end. But yeah, stay here at the Nerd Academy where we will keep it edging. But
are you edging or are you gooning?
I am. Well, more often than not, I'm gooning. But you guys can find me on social media on Instagram and Blue Sky, mostly at Dark Jedi 2552. You can find me on Epic Confrontations. I have a match coming up against Scotty Holiday, friend of the show, pretty frequent guest. We had an absolute barn burner of a match. I'm not going to spoil the end result, but it was a lot of fun and the way it goes is very interesting, and I'm very happy with how it ended because of how the match went and other forces involved. And that's all I'll say. I think my post-match interview will explain what I'm hinting at. But go tune into that. That'll be coming out soon on the Star Wars in a Galaxy YouTube channel. Ionized Bastards, we're in our final season, coming into the end here because Michael deliberately doesn't tell us anything. I don't know how much of it Bill will be in for these last few sessions, but Bill is also in Ionized Bastards.
I'm here.
He is here,
baby. The Boken Jedi Padawan of Quinlan Voss, baby.
Which was so beautifully timely now after Tales of the Underworld. It was that felt great.
I watched that yesterday and was like, "That's my master. That's him. That's him." He told me about it in the past. It'd be cool.
This made me so happy. I was like, oh, look at Bill accidentally doing brand synergy.
I didn't mean to.
Um,
Well, that's why Kathleen Kennedy is going to be on the pod, and
I think he's gonna be on the Nerd Academy
we're going to
podcast.
be podcast at the Celebration podcast stage.
Kathleen
Absolutely.
Kennedy is gonna come on with that winning smile and go, I just thought it was really funny when Scotty J-Ro massacred Cookie.
It's
Jared, I thought it was very insightful when you called Grandmaster Yoda a mark-ass bitch pussy leader and compared him to Nancy Pelosi as a slur. But you,
I think she's on the team. That's all I'm going to say.
I
think she's on the
Kathleen
team.
Kennedy's secretly
I
a
think
part
she's
of
on
the
the
Nerd
team.
Academy podcast.
I think she's
I'm
on the
going
team.
to edit the Meet the Professors page on the website to include Kathleen Kennedy and see how long it takes to get a cease and desist from the Walt
The
Disney
cease and
Corporation.
desist that will hit. It's going to be like crack. Like it's going to be.
You like crack?
It's allegedly.
Allegedly.
None of us know.
None of us know. You guys can also find me on Pro and Noob on the Mitch692 channel, where Mitch is showing me a bunch of anime for the first time. We are coming towards the end of our Cowboy Bebop season. Mitch has all kinds of plans for what comes next, all of which are so difficult for me to keep track of. But next year we will be doing a lot of Star Wars Visions. Holy shit, the hiccups are back. So we're talking Star Wars Visions. Like I said, very pumped for that in general. I get to have another Star Wars season. Oh no, I moved my lightsaber. Fuck a duck. Okay, anyway.
Nar.
But yeah, so Pro and Noob, Cowboy Bebop, lots of other stuff coming down the pipeline. Once we're done with Bebop, we're taking like a month off from that. So yeah, stay tuned to all of that stuff. Stay tuned here to the Nerd Academy podcast. We have some fun versus topic episodes coming soon, which you guys will get at the $5 tier. Those will eventually be released to the public, but patrons are going to get those first as I gear up to get us back into the swing of things for the actual versus season here in the next couple months. And thank you to our $10 patrons, Paco, Ray Clausen, and Brennan Marr of Page Turners. They were not. Like I said earlier, KNR episode coming out probably this weekend. We are going to be doing an Andor mega recap and some Tales of the Underworld as well. And then probably next week we'll talk about Daredevil. There's just been so much shit going on.
Know that.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Let's do
So-
Daredevil.
So next week will probably be Daredevil. Bill will probably be on for that, as will Mitch from Mitch692 and Comic Book Cast. So stay tuned for all of that. We hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the things. And class dismissed.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.